Hello, Global Theater. My name is Gerry Fialka. Today is August 20, 2025. Want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast, I'm Probably Wrong About Everything. Please subscribe. It's an honor and a pleasure today to be here with Lili Haydn and Paul Cantelon. Where are you guys calling from?
Los Angeles.
How cool is that? The first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
Love.
I get that the most. Paul, what's your input?
I must not to be a minor bird, but I would say love as well. Most
Yes.
extraordinary. Yeah.
What's your favorite form? Oh, go ahead, Lili.
I was just going to say, and to elaborate on that, I mean, there's so many different kinds of love.
Indeed, yeah.
It's, I'd say that, and a lot of things that we think of as other things are actually about love. So the primal need to feel that we're seen, to feel that we're heard, that we matter, that we're safe. All of that is really about love. So
Yeah.
all of the kind of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, of human needs, it's all about love and feeling connection to something. It's about not being alone. That's all love. So.
Yeah. I like the word acknowledgement. Everybody's walking around on earth just hoping someone will acknowledge them. Just say hello and nod. But, being in Venice, we're honored that a homeless dude wrote probably the greatest song in the world. His name was Eden Abe, and he wrote a song called Nature Boy. And the line goes, "The greatest thing you'll ever learn is to love and be loved in return." So I know you're an activist. I always say, you better be careful what homeless person you're kicking off the boardwalk. They might be writing the greatest love song ever.
So beautifully so. We should share our version of it sometime.
Yeah. Yeah, Paul wrote an amazing arrangement of Nature Boy that his wife, who left her body last year, the extraordinary Angela McCluskey, Scottish singer, you may have known her. So she passed last year, and she sang the shit out of Nature Boy.
It was wonderful, and Lili played so divinely on it. It was a great track.
Well, we got to hear it, and you got to get it to Brian Chittister. He's been spending 10 years making a documentary on Eden Abe, and it's going to come out someday and blow everybody's minds.
That's thrilling.
Oh,
That's really
well, we have to get that to him because it's really it's a definitive version. It's really it's got a connection. Let's please talk about that after the show.
Please. Second question is, what's your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
Good heavens. I mean, I belong in like probably the late 18th century. So I would just say the spoken word personally. I know that sounds rather rarefied, that can not often be the case, but I would rather someone speak like through a telephone or through even a radio. I'm not 190, but that's what I would prefer very much. More than newspapers, particularly because they're so tricky.
Yeah.
I like psychic transmission.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
I do get that. Both of those. I appreciate both of them. Why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Goodness. I think it's a natural propensity to collect. Everyone in some way does. I think by natural instinct. It's a primitive instinct too, unless I'm very high flown and that sounds silly. But
I think it's for safety. It's well, we have a natural curiosity. Human beings are really. I've actually been meditating on something in this area a lot, Gerry, and that is that human beings come in with the need to be loved, to be safe, to learn, to express themselves, to so it's kind of we have natural intelligence, natural curiosity, natural abundance, natural generosity, natural natural survival skills, natural immune system, but it's really as we evolve, we need to learn to calibrate all of these factors, all of these elements, because if we don't collect enough, we end up on the street. If we collect too much, we become a sociopath. And or a hoarder, or a sociopath. If our immune system isn't cultivated enough, we succumb to diseases. If it's too overactive, we have autoimmune disease where our bodies are attacking ourselves. If we are too curious, we lose ourselves. If we're not curious enough, we diminish. I think if we're too much in our reverie, we lose our footing on the ground and can go mad. If we don't have enough revelations, we live a mundane life and feel uninspired. So really, everything is about calibration. It's about fine-tuning ourselves, and in the same way that a tuning fork you can tune yourself to a tuning fork. I think that's what camaraderie is. That's what friendship is. That's what community is. We're tuning each other to help each other calibrate all of these systems so that we can both we can thrive. And it's important to be around people who help us tune to the highest vibration of ourselves.
Beautiful. That's Captain Beefheart said, "Beam in on me, baby." And so, that was really, you guys are concise and articulate, and I appreciate this, because most people say why we collect information is survival. And you both have ESP, because the next question is it more innate or more invented? Why, we collect information. So you covered that. And I'm curious, do thoughts create emotions?
Undoubtedly. In fact, Lili said something dramatically meaningful to me earlier that I loved. I found extraordinarily unique, where we were speaking of, especially when one struggles through going through challenging times and things can get terribly gloomy, and one can let one's thoughts run riot from one. And then she will say it, I'll just say it as I understood, but she'll say it much more wonderfully so, that that when one's attacked with something really negative or terribly sad, she said to me quite simply, remember that is it sorrow or stress?
Fear or negative thoughts, that's just one way to use your imagination.
That's
yeah.
I thought rather
that's
wonderful.
Just one way to use your imagination. And I was talking, if you catch your mind going to a negative place, you can actually, if we're lucky enough to have the perspective, and if we cultivate our perspective, our equanimity, we have the benefit of, that's just one way to use your imagination. Well, in the same way that you would guide your cat or dog away from the garbage and turn them toward, a nice plate of food, you can guide your mind to say, well, instead of imagining all this negative shit, why don't we imagine something wonderful?
Yeah.
So,
oh, go ahead, Paul.
Oh, no, what you said is true. I'm meaning I do think it does create extraordinarily so emotion, depending if one could. I mean, my father was a preacher, so I grew up in a wild, tent meeting, faith healing blowouts. So there was some extraordinary verse, and now I feel completely silly because in the Bible, and somewhere in the Bible, it's talked about governing the mind. Hard word to say, taking government over one's thoughts through just intention and discipline. So then when Lili said that, I hadn't thought of Daddy from his endless sermons saying something like that, but now it resonates. It is meaningful to me because it's true. We get to control.
And I think emotions create thoughts as well. I mean, we are endless universes. We are constant with every breath in and every breath out, we're it's a new life. We are being reincarnated. We have the opportunity to reinvent the next moment and thought and emotion. And so and there is just as we don't know how we ultimately came into being, we there is no answer to what came first, really. We are consciousness. We are consciousness. So consciousness creates emotion, and emotion leads us back to consciousness.
Yeah, really good, Lili. You both are truly wonderful wordsmiths. And I forgot when you said calibration, Lili, I wanted to inject this quote I just found yesterday for Bertrand Russell. In the modern world, the stupid are cocksure while the intelligent are full of doubt. in regards to this calibration, discerning what we're going to tag on to, how do you process that quote? Do you want me to read it again, or you got it?
Oh no, I've heard it before, and it's brilliant. Yeah. Well, I think I would, the way that I interpret that quote is that that if you're really, that when you're connected to a larger intelligence, and when you're connected, and true intelligence is always evolving, and evolution requires a lack of certainty, because certainty is stagnation. It's really, perfection is death ultimately. So in order to evolve, you have to dare to suck. You have to dare to be you have to dare to be wrong. You have to question, you have to fail, you have to, and then and in that surrender, you arrive at something larger. And people who are, and it's very tempting to want to have, because we also crave safety, to have something that's absolutely certain, but there's nothing certain. Nothing is certain, or it's just the illusion of certainty. And that is, and also, and ultimately, to me, the ultimate point of view that always leads me to the higher viewpoint is to find compassion. So even those who are, who are clinging to something that they feel certain of, that feels good for them, that in my mind may not be the most expansive viewpoint. That's not for me to say. And I have compassion. I understand why somebody would want to cling to an icon, as opposed to, search for something that we're not, where we don't know. It's an uncomfortable place to be, but to not know. But ultimately, compassion, which is fluid, which leaves room for everything and uncertainty, is an ultimately certain place.
Yeah. It's like the word compassion is an example of how words evoke more than their meaning. Compassion. And I feel this is a very great, safe place for me, what you're established in our time here. So Mallarmé really nailed it, what you were saying there. He said to define is to kill, to suggest is to create. So here's a fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until how would you fill in the blank?
Experience it.
Yeah, experience it. How about you, Paul?
I need some more thought for this.
Yeah.
Can you say it again to me?
I don't know what I think until
Well, and I'm not saying this in a religious way, pray.
Yeah.
I would have to.
That's good.
One walks often not knowing what the next step is, and that, which is such a blessing. Again, it is. I'm really, really not saying it religiously. I've come through a lot in my labyrinth of that in my life, and it's not organized my faith, or organized religion, but it's been so precious, this music of this album for me without even until recently it was so, because I've not really been able to play much since Angela's gone. And yet the music was always prayer to me, but this is the most dramatic experience of it in my life, where the very nature of the music and me trying to learn the pieces again to play them a bit brought me, it was prayer, and it brought me, I don't like to use the word very much, but healing. It really did. And that's only very recently. So prayer is sort of everything for me, especially in these days when I've struggled. So
yeah, I agree with Paul, actually. And if I may add to,
please.
That, to me, I don't know what I think until I've taken the time to tune in.
Yeah.
So, and I start every day with a short meditation to just get to anchor myself in the refuge of my breath, the sanctuary of my solitude, of my connection to the force that created all life. And once I've done that, then I know what I think. Until I've done that, I'm kind of often, kind of thrown from, I'm untethered in a way, with the vicissitudes of life. So yeah, I need to tune in, and then I know what I think.
Conscious breathing, so good. This woman a couple weeks ago, she says, I don't know what I think until I rant about it for 30 minutes. So Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it. McLuhan says, I don't know what I think until I say it. Can humans think without language?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Chomsky says, oh, go ahead, Paul. You want to?
I was just rather foolishly thinking of Sartre. Je pense bien que je sois. I think thus I am.
Yeah.
But then he was always experiencing, vanishing into an existentialist bubble, which made no sense. So it just came to mind. I remember I lived in Paris a great deal of my life, and some fellow student back in the 70s having a T-shirt with that plastered across it.
Yeah. Well, both of you are invoking Whitman a lot, because he says, I contradict myself. I contain multitudes. So here's Chomsky. Language is not just words. It's culture. It's tradition. It's a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
Oh, goodness. Well, then thank the gods for music.
Yeah.
That's always been. I used to answer that when asked through my rambling life, why do you play? Why do you try to write music? I would say, I used to always say the same old thing. I don't care if it's the back of the Salvation Army. It's a better communication for me. If it's only to me and to God, as God is for me, which can be like that country westerns song, One's Plastic Jesus, doesn't really matter. But I'm very, very grateful if it was just me in a broom closet for my whole life, just to have music instead of words, which fail one,
I agree. And actually, the reason that I wanted to wait until now, Gerry, to talk to you was that I wanted to be able to share this album that Paul and I have just made, because it has really transcended words and comes from the deepest place that I know. It's called Lullabies for the Brokenhearted, and it's inspired. It's both a tribute to Paul's wife, Angela McCluskey, and also inspired by the music that I've made for people as they're dying, as they are literally have left this world. I've done that for 7 people, starting with my mom and dad, and it transcends words. It transcends the boundary, the illusion of separation between worlds in a way. It's not about death. It's not sad. It's expansive. And music has the power to bridge the gap between people, between whatever we call spirit and this world, and that is certainly, and that's it's the greatest gift that I know.
It's really well put, because this is only the second time I've asked this question. And if you haven't seen this film, it's a couple years old, by Ethan Hawke, the actor, made a documentary on his piano teacher called Seymour Bernstein. And it's called An Introduction. It's an amazing film where you just talk to this guy who could play classical music beautifully, and then he quit mid-career and just became a teacher. And so it's just talking to this teacher, and it basically inspired me to ask this question: what's the difference between music and religion? Is there a difference?
Well, to me, yes, because religion, from régler, which is a rather strict form of rigid. It's rigid in a way. It can be, at least the word as we know comes from this. And so, and I don't really think of religion as prayer. I think, as Lili said so beautifully, prayer is reaching out. It's just, thus music is just a language which is more focused and more efficient. So I can't think of, especially from, I think people like me, from my background, that had to break out of that, who had to have courage to keep faith, because there was such madness going on all the time, and good things, but mixed with a lot of chaos. So religion is a word that I would rather just say faith, prayer,
Yeah.
I hope that wasn't too rambly.
No, that was great. That's what we're here for. Ramble on, dude. This is what we're here for. Thank you.
Ramble on. For me, religion, it's along the lines of what Paul just said, can be very dogmatic, and get, and I have another insight that I'd like to share, that that the commandment of the 10 Commandments that says, "Thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain," I don't think it means don't say goddamn. I think it means don't use the Lord's name to justify your own vanity, your own vain agenda, your self-righteousness. And to me, that's the tragic irony of most religion, that they use God, the concept of God, to justify self-righteousness and condemnation of other people that don't agree with them, when honestly when that's the opposite of what spirituality and revelation is meant to be about. But I think, again, that comes from fear and people clinging to something that they feel. The dogma is just an uncalibrated revelation. It's stultified revelation.
Interesting.
And then it becomes how quickly revelation turns into idolatry if it's not kept alive and kept in the fluidity of humility and surrender and curiosity and reverence that has to be, where one is going to necessarily face uncertainty. And what I think that the revelation that was probably the initial spark of most religion, is the same revelation that's in music, in my opinion. And different music can get very dogmatic as well. I mean, sometimes classical music can be more, they celebrate and perfection over heart. And sometimes, so one hopes that that the spirit will triumph over all of over dogma wherever we are. And interestingly, our album is classified as classical, but it really is just completely from spirit. It's the music that comes through when we're at our most reverent. And but it does end up in the classical category. So we're actually, you're catching us mid Grammy campaign. So, in a couple of months, we'll know if the classical world in chamber music has allowed spirit to triumph over perfection.
Let's hope for the best. That was beautiful. Your observations of humans in general. Are we more feeling beings or more thinking beings?
Feeling for me, always. I mean, the mind gets in the way so much. I mean, I think of back to your wonderful question about religion too, that overthinking, there's so many things that derail. Again, I don't mean to be hastening back to my complicated past, but without any mentioning bits or bobs what it was, but I remember as a child loving perfect love casteth out fear. At the same time, we were raised with the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom, which to me, I used to constantly ask my dad and all sorts of people, this dichotomous is contradictory, it makes no sense. So that sort of exemplifies to me the mind pushing itself up in the way, though it can be wonderfully enlightening and just, conducive to emancipating and changing. But I myself, I'm a rather childish creature, but I would say feeling.
Yeah.
I would say it's a matter of calibration again.
Yeah.
We have intelligence in our brains. We have intelligence in our gut, and we ignore our instincts and our feelings at our peril. Our instincts, the gut is, scientists have discovered that the gut is literally a second brain, and that when we disregard those instincts, we're literally, we can die. It is actually unsafe for us. So I think as we evolve, when you look at the theory of evolution, and we've, evolved from, little amoeba into, fish, into primates, into, whatever we evolved into. I think that I don't know, if we're going to change physically much, but I think that the next stage of evolution is consciousness. I would like to think so.
Yeah.
And I know that I cultivate my consciousness, my connection to the kind of a super consciousness as much as I can, and so I think all the time, but I also am happily, constantly trying to calibrate it with my feeling. So that's
Beautiful.
the best.
Beautiful, because Bridget Bardot says, when I make love, I don't think. I'm like, good luck. How do you turn your brain off? It's like people who meditate. Okay, now think about not thinking. And there's a bumper sticker on a car on my street, and it says, don't believe everything you think. And I'm like, well, you could say, don't believe everything you feel.
The same is absolutely
interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely. However, it's a matter of calibration. It's really, there really is not, if you get one rule, you're fucked. You have to, it's about, being, it's about being fluid. That's the ultimate. You have to learn the rules. There are guidelines, and then you have to calibrate it with your instincts. You don't believe everything you think. There was one of the first sort of steps in my spiritual evolution was a teacher who said, if you really want to evolve, you have to understand that sometimes your mind will play tricks on you.
That's good. That's subgenius. Pull the wool over your own eyes. Yeah. But this is two questions from Alan Turing in the 50s. One, is thinking a function of the soul?
I would, no pun intended, have to think about that. I'm not sure.
That's fine.
No, I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, I think everything is a function of.
Why I would say it would be, though. Why would you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not. It is, and it also can be a function of dysregulation. If you think too much at the, and it becomes out of balance, and you're not also consulting your gut and your environment, and you're not calibrating, you're not kind of modifying it to see if you're in some sort of crazy feedback loop, it can be psychosis. But absolutely, everything is a function of the soul. I think it's more a function of just being. We are thinking beings, and we are feeling beings, and we have the potential to find a beautiful balance. And that is the magic of creation, how we express ourselves. That's what makes people individuals, is the balance between their thinking and feeling, and how they choose to express each. And it's sort of like, I play violin, and I practice my positions and my technique, but then I have to, so I'm thinking about all of these things, but then I have to get out of the way and let feeling come into it, or it just is going to sound mechanical.
And also it made me think of the fact that different languages can be so enlightening, the way that words are used. In Latin languages, I don't speak Spanish, but in French and Italian, l'âme means soul and brain at the same time. And we don't have that in English. So it can be used interchangeably. And your wonderful question made me, and Lily's wonderful answer thus, it made me think about that, because then it's fused together always, which isn't I don't know about German and Russian, etc., and other languages, but in Latin languages, l'âme.
Spell that word, Paul.
L'Ame. And
thank you so much. I needed that. I'm learning a lot, because Lili, what you taught me too there was dysregulation. Brought up back to Captain Beefheart said, I had too much to think. And George Clinton, one of our faves, said, think it ain't illegal yet. But the Marx Brothers nailed it. They were in a jam, and they goes, we got to think. And they go, no, we already tried that. So the second Turing question is, can machines think?
Oh, goodness me. That rather frightens me.
It seems well they can. I think depending on your definition of think, if you're if it's about logic and putting ideas together and creating, and summing it up, apparently they can. I think a more evolved definition of think involves consulting all of the elements, and we as sentient beings consult more than just what we can see and what has empirically been shown. There's a je ne sais quoi. There are factors that we haven't been able to quantify that go into our thinking, that and when you can't quantify it, then a machine can't quantify it.
That's so true.
And so you're going to get a certain limited thinking. And so, this is why it's so important to cultivate your creativity and your spirituality. And because if you don't, then a machine will be able to do anything you can do
so true.
better.
Yeah.
The only way to stay relevant is to be human, is to really cultivate our humanity and our nuanced thinking, and consult all the all the senses that are unique to us.
Yeah.
Well,
you're anticipating a lot where we're going to go. The next question is, do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Meaning. Definitely. Because happiness is very elusive. Happiness only comes out for me out of evolvement and feeling you've gotten to a new step, a new place. Then that brings a little happiness. But happiness in its own is like trying to find a great cloud of cotton candy, leap into it, rather oddly said. But
beautiful metaphor there. I really visualized that well.
Oh dear, it's rather unpleasant.
Happiness is elusive. I mean, equanimity is not being sort of, it's sort of like it. I pursue an experience of allness, of of richness, of depth, of, I guess, meaning, but not exactly meaning. I want to feel the totality of the experience. Happiness without depth is actually revolting.
Yeah.
It can be, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, at least, you know, sort of like there's nothing worse than actually, Paul and I have a joke. We've known each other forever. And we have this little inside joke with, I should be careful about this, but I'll just say when I was a child, I was an actress, and I was on a screen test against the girl who had played Annie on Broadway. And I was obsessed with Annie, and I went up to her, and we were both 10 years old, and I went up to her dressing room, and I knocked on the dressing room door, and I said, I heard you played Annie. And she opened the door like some jaded 40-year-old, like, and I said, I heard you played Annie. And she went, and she gave this hilarious Annie smile, and it scared the shit out of me.
Oh, that's
and,
forgot about that.
And it became so now, like, so ask me, you know, say something nice to me. Just give me a compliment.
Oh, you're beautiful, Lili. That's called role playing. I love that. That was fun. No one ever does this on my podcast. Thank you.
Well, anyway, and it's a very fun game. If you're just listening, what we're doing is I'm going from a very kind of grim, you know, meh face to a saccharine sweet, wide smiled, wide-eyed grin, shitty grin. And it's scary as can be.
Wonderfully
but
so.
It's a really fun game. So just like, you know, try this at your next dinner party. Just like go from a sad face to ask somebody for a compliment, and then you give it to them.
It's a good face workout. It's hard muscles.
It's really fun, and it actually gives you the kind of it's a fun game because it also has it gives us the perspective on how malleable our emotions are, and really is kind of the playful version of fear or sadness is just one way to use your imagination.
And I love your question too, because it's not that when I was young, because I mean, this is probably ancient, but there was an old sort of a traditional thought pattern years ago that people would often say, because my music, my bits and bobs since I played have always been very, very melancholic, which I find happy. I find sad music very happy. So at the same time, I remember people saying to me very grandly, especially in Ireland and England, they'd be like, you don't really have a talent for happiness. And I was like, well, I don't know what it means to you. I mean, happiness for me is not, my second cousin was Walt Disney, and I have a lifelong pass to Disneyland. That's not happy. That's enough to jump off a cliff. So it depends on how it's defined, really.
Yeah.
Me, certainly sad music is blissfully happy. But
for me, it's the depth of feeling. When I go deep and I'm actually feeling something holistically, like Paul's exquisite music, which yours. I don't find it melancholic at all. I don't even know what that means. I just know that when I'm feeling something, I'm in a state of bliss, and that's what I crave. And yes, there is meaning there, but that's the next level of interpretation. The actual state of experiencing the allness.
I love that.
Is what I crave personally.
I love that. And then back to, I seem to sound like some language professor, which I wouldn't qualify to be anyway. But I love in different languages their words. In German has some extraordinary words that don't exist in other languages. Sehnsucht is literally smiling through, being able to find joy through the tears, which is like a precious perfume. And they use it in like a lot of the resistance songs and the loveliest things that Sehnsucht is used.
Sehnsucht?
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't exist in.
Is it connected to Weltschmerz?
Weltschmerz.
Weltschmerz.
What is Weltschmerz?
It's basically compassion for the world. It's the
I thought you were being
sensible.
silly.
No.
Sorry. I didn't.
Weltschmerz, yeah.
Weltschmerz sehen Sie. Say that like smiling and frowning. Weltschmerz sehen Sie.
But that was good, Paul. Again, you taught me a great word. How's that spelled? Zenzuk?
No, I think you're probably right. I always thought it was Sench. Sehnsucht. Maybe DT.
DT. Okay, I got it. I'll look it up. That was good. And how do you spell the word you said, Lili?
Weltschmerz would be like world.
Welt.
Welt.
WELT. Schmerz. Weltschmerz.
Like hold on, I'm gonna Google this. Hold on.
That's been a tremendous gift and delight with Lili, because with all of our music and intensities of this and that, we've been hopelessly silly for years, like my baby sister, but completely nuts. We used to become, at the most serious concerts, in complete hysterics on stage, often we control ourselves. We had all sorts of like, it sounds eerily Masonic, which it certainly isn't. We had like ritualistic things we did, little greetings and handshakes, and they were all based on absolutely ridiculous situations.
Yeah.
We never restrained ourselves. And
the silliness has been...
It's been a great blessing, actually.
Oh, God.
I said about my darling Angela that she was very Glaswegian. I don't know if you knew her work, or she's a great, real force of nature, and very Glasgow dabbling like that. And she was wildly funny. And underneath, since these days I've passed through, underneath all the oceans of tears, there are volumes of laughter. There's always a way that's been such a blessing. To me, humor is, I could almost, if you ask me that, what's the greatest blessing of life, I would almost have to say that, because it's gotten me through everything in my life. Be able to laugh at myself endlessly and laugh at everything. There's great delight and humor in the most dire situation. Most often there is, in fact.
In fact, my mom was a stand-up comedian, so I have been around comedians my whole life, and it's hard to make me laugh with a joke, but there's never been a heartier laugh than waiting in intensive care and my father pulling a knife on Paul.
Well, and I adored him. He was a dear friend.
Yeah, I know about your dad, but your mom was on a show with Frank Zappa and Paul Krasner once, and they were talking about sex, and she goes, "Sex? I had that once." Now, I use that line at least twice a year. I love that line. Oh, sex? I had that one.
Oh, that's so Otis. That's wonderful.
But again, words evoke more than their meaning. And Gurdjieff said laughter is the reconciliation of yes and no. And I think reconciliation, silly, is right in the middle of that. It's the reconciliation of yes and no.
That's too adorable.
So this is you. Go ahead.
I've been corrected. I think it's Weltschmerz.
Weltschmerz.
Yes, it says.
How are you spelling it, Lili?
WELTSCHMERZ. It's literally world pain. So you're feeling the pain of the world, basically.
World pain, yeah.
Like schmaltz, which wouldn't really work.
Yeah. Weltschmerz.
Weltschmerz.
There's a wonderful documentary that I feel so just so forgetful. That great German actor from the 60s on made a documentary on Marlene Dietrich, where she refuses to appear. She's behind some 18th century screen in her Avenue Montaigne flat, and she's fabulous, but all she says, she's torturing him, and she says, like, he says, "You're just so wonderful," and good heavens, the lady from Shanghai or some film, and she'll say, it was schmaltz. It was all schmaltz. They were all schmaltz. And that's all she says for hours. Everything is like, the world is schmaltz. Everyone was schmaltz. Hollywood was schmaltzy. It's hysterically funny. It's a great film, though. Great documentary.
I love that film. And she is one of my heroes.
Me too.
She said the great thing a true friend is someone you can call up at 2 in the morning and they'll talk to you.
Oh,
And
lovely.
I always felt that's who she was. That she oozed that to me on the screen, no matter what she was playing. But you guys are so fun in diverting tangents, and I think that's what makes life so exciting. And you just begged for this Tom Waits quote, because this is sort of what we were just talking about, and I wonder your reactions to it. I like beautiful melodies telling me terrible things. The world is a hellish place, and bad writing is destroying the quality of our suffering.
Yeah.
Now it really hits at the end. How can suffering have quality? Go ahead, Lili.
Well, that's what I've been saying, is that I search for a deep experience. I like to feel I like the fullness. I just want to feel something.
You're not afraid of it either, which is, you have great courage for this.
Well, I don't know if I would have necessarily had that strength had I not been forced to deal with it, with the loss of my mom. I was young, and my mom was only 54 when she died, and she was my best friend and my other half, and losing her was unthinkable. And but she showed everyone who was around her how to deal with the most, with the unthinkable with grace. And losing her was the second greatest gift, only after the gift of having been her daughter, because the way that I have been allowed to revel in it, to grieve, to process it, to allow it to shape me, to the well of compassion that was carved into me has allowed me to connect to so many people, and to be a help to people who are going through hard stuff.
You have intensely so.
And it's given me the courage to walk into situations that other people are afraid to be in, and because I know that that's where the richness is, and there's something very soul edifying and fortifying about being where you're needed, where you can make a difference, where people are feeling something, and you can be even just being with them and not even doing anything, but to have to not be afraid to just be in an uncomfortable place with somebody who's going through something hard. That is what the world is uncomfortable right now. And if we're not, and we can, yes, we have to have still have to have fun, and we still have to do our art and live our lives. But I think if we don't acknowledge that the world is uncomfortable now, we're going to feel a schism, and we're going to feel apart from ourselves, because our guts know shit's going down. We know something's happening now, and we have to be there for each other, and we have to be there in full presence and without fear, or with our fear.
I think what your album is really emphasizing, and what you just said, Lili, is what McLuhan learned from Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce. You fall down, then you get back up. How do you turn a breakdown into a breakthrough? How do you turn a rejection into a redirection?
It's wonderful. It's so memorable.
Through presence and curiosity, and continuing to and when we focus on the process of revelation, rather than the end goal and the need for there to be some pinnacle that we cling to, then the process, then we can interpret every fall as a necessary step in the path. And it's just richness, rather than, okay, well, that was bad or good. That's what I think the spirit of equanimity is. And that's what Buddhism is trying to teach us. And what the sages try to teach us is that, if something that looks like a tragedy or a loss might actually be a gift. And if you just, and you know, the way that I try to approach everything these days is to look at it as, you know, how is this a gift? All right, well, the universe has just changed my course. Okay, well, I didn't want that, but maybe this is opening up the path for something else. So what is that? And when I open to that wisdom, you know, I mean, look, I am a little bit of a control freak. I'm ambitious. I want what I want, and I want it now. I want my milk and I want it now, to quote Woody Guthrie. He wrote a children's album for his baby, and one of my favorite songs was "I want my milk and I want it now." But you know, but when the path changes, I think when you know, real grace is to be able to pivot and to you know, and that's what we you know, and to find the gift, and that's you know, I'm gonna bring it back to this album. This gift has been so profound for me. To be able to, you know, essentially, it's been a response to how much suffering I've felt for the world, for how many of my friends have been suffering, how you know, and you know, how do you make an album of pop songs when people are getting kidnapped off the streets?
Yeah. Hello.
Like, you know, like you can't hustle like, hey, hashtag buy my album, you know, like what do you, that's, I'm too old for that kind of, to be that obtuse. And I mean, there's a place for everything. I don't want to put anybody down, but that's just not that. I couldn't do that. But the one thing I felt I could do, and that I felt was relevant and important, was to make an album of the music that I've played for people as they are wrestling with the with you know, the biggest, with the end, with the beginning, with the Almighty. And then when when Angela passed last year, and Paul was dying of a broken heart, my gut and spirit, or whatever you want to call it, whatever that voice was, told me that Paul and I had to make this album together. We've been playing together for decades, and never made a duet album, and I just knew that that spirit, or whatever it was, we were supposed to bring our reverence and our gifts and our spirits together to create this music. And it's been healing for me. Paul says it's been healing for him.
That's the most dramatic for me.
And
really.
And then I've shared it with a lot of people who are going through stuff, and people seem to really feel the spirit and the intention in it. And like I say, to me, it's not sad. It's just authentic, present, and life affirming, and honestly created with the intention to transcend the illusion of separation between us, between worlds, between this life and the next.
And
yeah,
you said, yeah.
Well, beautiful, because the great experimental filmmaker Hollis Frampton said, narrative is born among the animal necessities of the spirit because we're waiting to die. So my question is, can you forget to die?
It's so interesting you asked that, because of late, I have a wonderful older brother, and he was just talking. He has great work among children and refugees between Nigeria and in India as well. And he was just saying, it's a very, very simple comment about, we're all celebrating our happy birthdays and our birth and all the bits, but in the West, then we come to death and it's all, don't speak of it. And it's just a passage. So maybe that's not a precise answer to what you asked, but I think it just has to be, one has to be not afraid of this. It's just as simple as leaving on a train and returning, or, I don't know if that.
It makes me think of a story that when my mom was ill, my mom had a brain tumor, and she was diagnosed, and it was beyond, it was inoperable. It was an inoperable brain tumor, and we it started out very, very dramatically. We got her radiation, and that stopped the growth of the tumor, and she started to make some gains, and then about 8 months later, the brain tumor started to come back, and it was the moment you dread, the most feared, dreaded moment of any cancer journey, is when the medication stops working and you have to make a decision. What's the next step? And in the case of my mom, the radiation, you can only get radiated once on a given area. So there was no going back to that well. And the prognosis was not, I mean, it was a death sentence. There was no way around it. But I was absolutely certain maybe we could go to Mexico. Maybe we could go to this clinic. Maybe we could. I was her devoted. I was her devotee, and I said to her, and she didn't really. She was, because of her brain tumor, her language, and forgive me for going on long here, but she was referring to herself in the third person a lot, because that was how her brain was functioning at the time. And I said, so Mom, we have to make a decision. We have to decide, this stopped working. We gotta make a decision. What's the next step? If you want to live, I will help you live. We'll go wherever it takes. I will help you live. But if you feel like you don't want to fight anymore, I will also help you die. I'll, whatever you want to do, you just have to let me know. But if you want to live, you can live. She said, I'm alive right now, by the way. And she said, no, she's alive right now, by the way. And then she said, how will she know when she's not?
Oh, how extraordinary.
Oh, yeah.
When she's not. And it really brought home this concept that it's just energy just changing form.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I love that.
So that was a long-winded way of saying, you can define death. Death is a term that we give to an experience from our points of view. I don't know if it's the ultimate point of view. I think that there's another way to look at it when you're feeling more connected to other realms, and that it's a transfer of a transition of energy. But and death feels very, very finite when you're the one dealing with the loss of your other half. True. And there's no getting around that. And actually, after my mom died, I went to her rabbi, and he saw me sort of flailing around with all of my spiritual machinations, and he said, your mother's dead. And he said, and Jews are commanded to say the Shema, which is a prayer that basically affirms the oneness of God, that everything is God, every day of their lives, except for 2 times. One is on your wedding night, when you're supposed to be entirely consumed with the physical. You're not supposed to be saying everything's God. You're supposed to be fucking, basically, pardon my language. And the other time that you're not commanded to say the Shema is in front of the dead body of your loved one, because it is the hardest thing that you go through as a human being, and it is. There's no getting around it. It is fucked. It is hard, and it does, and it hurts. And as you live through it, and my experience has been that it's not finite, and that there really isn't a a definitive separation between this world and the next, and that music has been the bridge for me to transcend that separation.
Thank the Lord for it.
Yeah. Really, I agree. And it's funny because since I've been asking that question, can you forget to die? People usually look at me weird. They don't know whether I'm meaning it metaphorically or literally. And I always say, put it into the context you want. So I'm glad you guys really handled that question well, because McLuhan said that all words are metaphorical. So what is the word literal a metaphor for? But let's go to the next question. That was just a joke. The next question is, does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating it?
We're in conversation with it. We are co-creating.
Yeah.
We're co-creating it. I think we're participants. We are consciousness.
Yeah.
That's right. We are consciousness, and we're fractals of the supreme consciousness.
Yeah, it's good. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
I think thought myself. Because it's almost, it's often evolved before it's been thought of. It's just almost in reverse in its quickness. I don't know.
I'd like to think that my thought is light.
Yeah. Well, I love both your answers, Paul. When people say thought, I go, there's no right or wrong answers to any of these questions, but that one you got right. So this is Audre Lorde, the poet. You can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Her colleague Yvonne Rainer said, no, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest? And it doesn't have to be tangible.
I need a second to think about that.
No worries.
I think compassion, honestly.
Yeah.
Compassion, because what I've noticed these days is that the people who are perpetrating the cruelty elicit more cruelty. I've got my most pacifist friends are using words like sniper, and there's, it like we are righteously angry now.
Yeah.
But what I know for certain is that because of my mom's brain tumor and my study of the brain, that when fear is activated, and when fear and anger, which is a corollary, the associated emotion, are activated, it activates the amygdala. The amygdala is for everybody knows, but it's the fight or flight part of the brain. It's the part that gets you the fuck out of there when the lion's coming. And so there's no time for nuanced thinking when the lion is coming. So the amygdala hijacks the energy from the rest of the brain. So all of our powers of empathy, reasoning, nuance, subtlety, they're all without any fuel. It literally hijacks the rest of the brain. So confrontation with people who are coming from fear, where all it does is reinforce the thing that caused them to be afraid and act the way they're acting in the first place. There is no movement with might against might. You cannot evolve out of it. Only creates more conflict. The only thing that works is compassion and understanding and listening and giving people and making them feel that they're heard, that they're safe enough to deactivate the amygdala and possibly activate their sense of humanity, shared humanity. And when people feel listened to, heard, their basic human needs are being met, and their heart is being activated on some level, there is a possibility of moving forward with cooperation. And it goes against every instinct that I have when somebody's threatening me or my friends or the people that I think are vulnerable. I just want to get violent, but it just simply doesn't work. And so the new tool I think we need to dismantle the master's house is compassion.
Well said, Lily. It really evoked, Lenny Bruce said, you can call cops 3 things: pigs, police, and peace officers. Why don't we just call them peace officers? Because that's what we want them to do. It's William Blake. We become what we behold.
How true. How true.
So, Paul, do you want to weigh in on a tool that you gravitate towards? Or, like, I love Lily saying compassion, but anything you want to contribute?
I wholeheartedly want to say compassion too. I just thought Lily,
Yeah.
you said very beautifully, and that's actually the only tool that I would want to have if it was something new.
Yeah.
That was very childishly said, but it couldn't have been said better. So, amen for compassion.
Paul.
Yeah, that's what we're all trying to tap into, is our child innocence. That's when we're. But now the follow-up is, I asked the tool question for so many years, and someone said, well, what about a toy? So what toy do you gravitate towards?
A toy.
Can
a toy be just rampant silliness or not? I don't know.
I make toys out of everything, actually.
You do?
My husband, Itai from Maytar, the brilliant bass player, he's also my partner in Opium Moon, the group. You've heard Opium Moon, right?
Of course, both.
Wonderful band.
So Itai and I have a little game that we play where there's this like little, it's a little kind of ceramic bird. It's nothing. It's something you'd find at a little, like at a garage sale, and it's not even that. It's kind of ugly, actually. But we just we put it in funny places.
Oh, I see. How adorable!
And when it and the game is find the bird in a funny place, and if it's really funny, that's the game. It's like to make the other person laugh.
That's adorable.
It's really fun. And sometimes if I put the bird in a funny place, I'll like go up to him and say, "Where's the bird?" And then he'll have to go on a little treasure hunt, like it's like a hide and seek. He'll have to go look for where the bird is, and it'll be in a place that's just hilarious.
This is so fun. What do you guys worry about when you go to bed at night?
Not sleeping, frankly.
Yeah.
Just to be flat, to be really uninvolved. I'm a terrible insomniac, so I worry about that.
Well, I can sleep, but I usually choose not to. And then I.
Well, lucky.
But the problem is that I then usually have to get up before I have gotten enough sleep that I know that I'm supposed to get. And the more I learn about sleep, the more I realize I've been, with all of my health talk and all my organic food, I've been fucking myself. I think I am. My new revelation is that I think, oh, well, I am definitely the kind of person that doesn't need sleep. I'm one of the rare special ones that doesn't need sleep. And apparently, and I've just choose to believe that that's the case. I am trying now to make sure that I get enough, at least enough. But that's usually the only thing I really worry about, unless I worry for my friends. I worry for the world. I worry, but I have learned from teachers that I respect that worry. My mom used to say, worry is a prayer for what you don't want to happen to you to happen. So worry is just another way to use your imagination. What I choose to do when I catch myself worrying is to harness that thought bubble and turn it into an intention for it to, and a solution, a plan to change course. I am genuinely worried about people who are. I'm genuinely worried about our democracy, to be honest. I'm genuinely worried about the people who are being kidnapped off the streets. I'm genuinely worried about the fact that we have Christian nationalists who are hell-bent on destroying the little modicum of democracy that we've had. And I am genuinely worried about people who have the courage to speak out, because I do see people getting, like real retribution. And I'd like to think that I am courageous enough to stand up, and yet I also believe that my role is probably that what I have to offer is probably most effective on the emotional level, by bringing music to sweeten the hearts of people who might otherwise, to activate people's humanity with the love that is engendered from music. So I'm going at it from, I'm consciously choosing to speak to this moment in time with music, but I am genuinely worried about that. I'm just going to say, my mom used to say, the most oppressed minority is the individual.
Your mom had so many great one-liners, and they really blossomed into more. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Her name was Lotus Weinstock. So if you ever want to quote her, it was Lotus Weinstock.
Yeah,
she was engaged to Lenny Bruce the last year of his life.
Right, because here's the other line I love. She said to you, the Bible says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. But if you don't like yourself, your neighbor's in trouble. She was brilliant. I loved her dearly. And I love you, Lili. That was so articulate, because I bring up my mom now too, Dolores Fialka. When she died, I spoke at her wake service, and I said, there's a lot of people in this room who worry that Dolores worried too much. And I was like, there's a fine line between worry and concern. And what I think you were describing there is it's concern. So, whether you call, people go, well, worry's not, they try to distinguish a difference between worry and concern. But here's the next one, and I appreciate you guys' time and energy. This is really fun. McLuhan learned from a poet that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, so we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So I ask you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
I'll let you answer.
Thanks. I think because it's uncomfortable to face things that are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And to face places that we don't know. And especially when you've worked so hard to get to this point, when you realize, oh, there's something wrong. It's like, you ever, it's like when your partner says, we need to talk. It's like, oh, God. For fuck's sake, just tell me now, like, just don't torturing me. I don't. Who wants to face, an uncomfortable truth?
Right.
I think it's because of that. Nobody wants to, and it feels. And also, I think at the very core of it, it's that if something's wrong, then it means maybe we won't. Somebody will take love away. Maybe we won't be able to survive. Maybe we'll be alone. Maybe we won't be okay. Maybe we won't be safe. Or maybe it'll be uncomfortable, and I just don't have the energy to deal with something that's uncomfortable. But that's why change is made by young people, because there's more energy there, and they have less they're not as sort of stultified in what they've achieved. You become conservative when you have more to conserve.
Yeah. So this is follows right along with that, Lili. Eartha Kitt said, truth is a theory that is constantly being disproved. Only lies, it seems, go on forever. And I revert to Marcel Proust's great question, on what occasion do you lie? Because you talked about uncomfortable truths, and you talked about that so clearly.
There was a comment. I remember when I was reading the Cliff Notes for King Lear when I was in high school. And the comment was, the truth is not the only good in the world, nor is the obligation to tell the truth the only obligation.
True enough.
And I took that to heart. It's very, I mean, what is truth?
Yeah.
That is what, and especially today when people are, when we don't have a shared reality. I think ultimately the only thing that is a barometer of what is good is, does it make you kinder to the people around you? Does it make to the animals, the plants, your environment? Are people better off when you're in their world, or are people suffering because of you? And that is the barometer of whether or not something is true. There is public record, and then you get, there's American history, and then you get Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States, and then that turns it upside down. I think truth is evolving, but we do have to have some shared truth. I don't know, what goes on forever? Yeah, there lies truth. Truth, for it to really be true, has to be evolving, and so that does change over time. As anything that's stuck ultimately becomes untrue, and then it lasts for a very long time.
Yeah, Earth fits in that. It seems it's really well constructed how she said that. But when they asked Tom Waits, on what occasion do you lie, he says, I didn't know I needed an occasion. And this woman who dresses the stars says, that's called manners. So, but back on truth, as Louis Buñuel nailed it, he says, I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it. Now, everybody said, that's great. And one person finally challenged me and says, no, that's bullshit. Because if I'm going to seek something, it's because I want to find it. So I morphed it into this question. If the journey is more important than the destination, why do we have to name or seek a destination?
I don't know if we do. I mean, if you look to Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress, it's just the pilgrimage.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be some marvelous fuzzy cloud.
Yeah.
Above,
I think it's a balance. It's again with a balance. You do need to, ultimately, like if you break it down on the most fundamental level, a lot of what the journey is for most, for most creatures is, I need food at the end of this. I need to eat something to survive. And so everything else is kind of an extrapolation of that in a way, so that there is this goal, like I do need this thing to feel safe. I think where we get out of alignment and out of balance is when you're just like trying to achieve this thing that there's no inherent goodness in it. There's not going to enhance your survival. In fact, it may detract from. There's a comedian named Lee Camp who you'd probably really dig if you haven't heard of him. Yeah. He says, billionaires are really sociopaths. If you collected 1 billion of anything else, somebody would lock you up.
That is right.
What about my teapot collection?
And yeah, I think it's really a question of calibration and finding the balance, because and there is actually this interesting study that they did at Stanford where they went to a class of like 4 and 5-year-olds, like preschoolers, who liked to draw, and they gave them a drawing class, and then they went to the kids and they gave them gold stars for drawing, and as a reward for drawing. And after like a couple of weeks of giving them gold stars for drawing, they all stopped drawing. They didn't enjoy drawing anymore because it wasn't about the actual fun of drawing anymore. It was when they took away the gold stars, they didn't want to draw anymore because there was so reward systems can be both incentive and disincentive. It really is about finding a balance, and that is where excellence lies. It's not in following the rules. If you're just a rule follower, then machines will replace you, and that's not real intelligence. One needs to be able to follow the rules and consult all of the input in order to find real intelligence.
I mean, think of this wretched world we live in with these just perfectly beastly likes for everything, which is so insulting. Having to like pictures and like people desperately wanting likes, it makes me just want to jump backwards.
Yeah,
do that. It's horrible.
Oh, yeah, anyway, yeah, well, go on. Yes.
Well, there's a couple things you evoked there that were beautiful and funny too, because the kid goes up to the parent, his dad, and says, I got to the point where I realized you do a job. What's your job? His dad was an art teacher. He says, I teach people how to draw. And the kid goes, you mean they forgot? And so the other one is, the billionaire collecting anything. They'd lock you up if you just collected $1 billion anything. And McLuhan says you can't prove you're sane unless you have discharge papers from a mental hospital.
That's fine.
So what you said, Paul, and I love Lili, you really expounded on it well, but it's funny, Paul, because most people say, oh, no, we have to have a focus. And when you said we don't, I love to hear that, because that's what the flaneurs did in Paris in the 1920s. It's called psychogeography. It's like Hemingway, Picasso, and Joyce. They all sat around at coffee cafes and just chilled out. And that's when Joyce said, hey, you can find an epiphany in everydayness. So I'm curious, are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
I'm more afraid of old ones.
Yeah.
Well, of course, naturally, it all depends, but to have new ideas, meaning new enlightenment, is something really wondrous. And by old, I would define that as being a sort of something that's rigidly there, that you've always clung on to just by tradition, or it has to be so, that type of thing. Many are wonderful, so that I've gone it. I don't like generalizations, but some old truths are really precious, and others are real sticks in the mud that are binding or hold one back. But new, and I guess as long as they're sound and something wonderful, if they're something completely kooky, not to be taken to heart.
Yeah,
I guess so.
I'm afraid of anything that's not fluid, that doesn't actually that is impervious to real human needs.
Yeah. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever, or one of them?
Mm-hmm. I was impassioned. I knew this very strange, very odd people in my background because of Dear Daddy, and there was a preacher called Marjo who started a pantyhose, a sort of a little truck, like a ice cream truck, that sold pantyhose in bright colored plastic eggs of various colors. He was completely mad. There's a documentary about him called Marjo.
I've shown it many times way back in the 70s. Yes.
So he was very, very young at this point, and somehow I remember knowing him as a kid, and not that I wasn't into the pantyhose, I was a child, but I loved the colored eggs. And I remember spreading them around. My parents lived in one of the oddest houses on Mulholland Drive, which was, they proudly called it a Chinese contemporary. It had a pagoda roof and a round red door. And I remember on that sort of sunken living rooms with its endless shag carpets, spreading out all these colored eggs at the age of, I was very, very, very young. and I loved these eggs passionately. I think I loved them through much of my childhood. It was getting a bit uncomfortable for my parents, but that's one of my first.
I love it. Paul,
Yeah.
you couldn't ask for a better early. Marjo on Mulholland, man. It sounds like a David Lynch movie.
Yes. It just doesn't get weirder.
Wow. How about you, Lily?
I remember we lived in a so I was born in Canada, and then my mom came to LA with me. My dad was running from the law, and so it was just my mom and me, and we came from Canada to LA for a publishing deal for her songwriting. And it was early mid-70s, and I was just a baby, and she joined the Brotherhood of the Source, which was the commune but that was headed by the guru Jim Baker, who went by the humble name Father Yod, as in the unspeakable name of God, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. And we lived there. We moved, and my mom changed her name to Lotus from Marlene, and she was also going by Maury Haydn. She just had a bunch of names, and my name was Lilith, like the she demon. And then she changed it to, and then they changed it to Cherub. I was a baby, and we moved into the Houdini mansion, and then to the restaurant on Sunset Boulevard that's featured in Annie Hall, where he orders wheatgrass on sprouts. And they had some luncheon, and I remember just gorging myself on cherries, and nobody could find me. And I remember being found in a catatonic state under the table with cherry pits hanging out of my mouth, just red, just with my belly distended at 2 years old, and finding me just gorged on fruit.
Well, Lily, that scene should have been, talk about documentaries. The documentary on The Source is really a great doc. And the book.
My mom is in it.
Oh, she's in it. Good. In the book is really great too.
Actually, not in it. There might be a baby picture.
I saw you as a baby in it.
Oh yeah, okay. So there's a couple of baby pictures of me in there. Yeah. But my mom, there's a couple of pictures of my mom in there.
And in the book is amazing on The Source, but that was so well described because we don't need no stinking documentaries. You visualize it with spoken words so well. So I wanted to close out with one more question and propose that we do a part 2, maybe 6 months down the line after you guys win your Grammy. and so, so we can get into music. I mean, these were just the philosophical questions. I sort of lay the groundwork so we can really explore music in all its parts and structures and everything that it entails. But my final question would be, is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
A blessing. I know it can be awfully painful, but without there are so many such wonderful quotes that I'm too much of a silly sausage to remember, but about the preciousness of memory, that we wouldn't. How could we not have our memories? I mean, it's especially with loss. It's with all of the pain that comes with them. They're so wonderfully precious. So a blessing to me always.
Yeah.
My mom used to say that everything contains its own opposite.
Interesting.
So it's and I'm really brings me back to the concept that I'm working with now, which is about tuning, calibration. If you're stuck in memory, if you're ruled by memory, then you're not living in, you're not able to process and live in the moment.
That's true.
If you don't have memory at all, you're going to repeat the mistakes of the past, and you lack the perspective to be able to create meaning in the moment. So it's really about finding the balance, and it's always a delicate dance, and that's what what revelation is. Revelation to me is about the exquisite weaving of all of our potential energy and all of the gifts that we have for the most beautiful expression of it in the moment.
Yeah. That's like you yin my yang there, Lili, and you really evoked the coincidence of opposites. But I think this time of the last 90 minutes for me has been truly enlightening, and I really appreciate it because it's kind of summed up in this comment that McLuhan made about James Joyce at Finnegan's Wake. He said, Joyce uses the pun as a way of seeing the paradoxical exuberance of being through language. And I think I've been able to experience that paradoxical being through a Zoom with you two for the last 90 minutes. Thank you so much. This has really been a delight.
It's been a delight for us
Wonderful
as well.
talking to you. You're an absolute delight and joy to talk to. And one learns a great deal from you and your questions and your thoughts about things.
Yes.
It's a privilege.
Well, thank you so much, Gerry. This has been a real pleasure, and we've been trying to make this happen for a little while now. So I appreciate your patience.
Oh, no problem. I do 4 a week for I've done 1,040 years, and I can wait for great people like you on and on. So let's plan a part 2, like maybe 6 months down the line, and we can really delve deep into music. Thank you so much.
I'd love to meet you in person too.
Oh yeah, let's do that. My wife is singing at Catalina's Sunday night, so come on by.
Well, actually, we have an album release concert on Saturday night.
Oh wow.
If you guys want to come, I can send you the invite.
Send me the invite, and I'll send you the invite to the show, and we'll meet up again. I've met you many times, Lili, and seen you play in Venice, and so we will be in touch. I'm going to hit the end broadcast button now, but I hope this never ends, and we can keep talking forever and ever.
You're something
wonderful.
Else.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Love.
Lots of love.